Horror cinema has always pushed the boundaries of what audiences are willing to see. But some films went so far that entire governments tried to erase them from history. These are the movies that sparked bans, police investigations, and worldwide panic. The more authorities tried to hide these films, the more people wanted to see them. Tonight, we explore the forbidden side of horror cinema. Number 15. The Devils, 1971. Long before modern horror films started shocking audiences with extreme images, there was a film so controversial that entire governments tried to erase it. Ken Russell's The Devils arrived in 1971 like a lightning strike across the world of cinema. It was not simply a horror film, it was a historical nightmare built from real events that took place in 17th century France. And the story it told was so explosive that many countries refused to allow audiences to see it. The film follows the real-life priest Urbain Grandier, played by Oliver Reed. In the town of Loudoun, Grandier becomes the target of a political conspiracy led by powerful church authorities. Soon, a group of nuns begin claiming they are possessed by demons, and they accuse Grandier of being responsible. What follows is a terrifying spiral of hysteria, religious manipulation, and public torture. Russell shot the film with shocking intensity. Scenes of mass exorcism, screaming crowds, and cruel punishment pushed the boundaries of what cinema had ever shown before. The reaction was immediate. Several countries banned the film outright, while others demanded heavy cuts. Even in places where it was released, the original version quickly disappeared. For decades, the film existed only in censored forms. Some scenes remain locked away in studio vaults even today. Critics now see The Devils as one of the most powerful political horror films ever made, but its reputation as a forbidden movie still follows it. The idea that truth can be twisted into terror remains deeply unsettling, and that is exactly why the film continues to haunt viewers half a century later. Number 14. Hostel, 2005. When Hostel arrived in 2005, it introduced audiences to a new kind of horror. Instead of supernatural monsters, the film suggested something far more frightening: ordinary people willing to pay money to watch someone suffer. Directed by Eli Roth and produced by Quentin Tarantino, the film quickly became one of the most controversial horror releases of the 21st century. The story follows a group of young travelers exploring Europe. Their trip begins with excitement and curiosity, but it slowly shifts into something darker. They hear rumors of a mysterious hostel in Slovakia where anything can be bought for the right price. What they discover is a secret organization that sells human victims to wealthy clients who want to experience the thrill of torture. The concept alone disturbed many viewers. Roth filmed the violence with brutal realism, which made the story feel uncomfortably plausible. Several countries reacted quickly. Thus, Ukraine banned the film completely, while others demanded edits before allowing it into theaters. Critics accused the movie of creating what they called torture horror. Yet despite the backlash, audiences flocked to see it. The film became a box office success and launched an entire wave of similarly brutal films during the late 2000s. Today, Hostel remains controversial because its horror does not rely on fantasy. The real terror comes from the idea that greed and cruelty could create something like the secret society shown in the film. That possibility keeps the story lingering in the mind long after the credits end. Number 13. The Human Centipede, 2011. Few films in horror history have provoked the kind of outrage caused by The Human Centipede 2. When director Tom Six released the sequel in 2011, it immediately ignited a storm of controversy across Europe. Even people who had never seen the film heard about it. Rumors about its disturbing concept spread faster than the movie itself. Unlike the first film, which followed a twisted surgeon, this sequel focuses on a lonely security guard named Martin. Martin becomes obsessed with the original Human Centipede movie and decides to recreate the experiment himself. The result is a grotesque nightmare that pushes the original idea far beyond anything audiences expected. Shot in stark black and white, the film feels cold, brutal, and intentionally uncomfortable. The British Board of Film Classification refused to approve the movie at all. Officials argued that its extreme imagery went beyond what could legally be shown in cinemas. For months, the film remained completely banned in the United Kingdom. Eventually, a heavily cut version was allowed, but the controversy had already turned the movie into one of the most notorious horror titles of its era. What makes the story so unsettling is the way it blurs fiction and obsession. Martin is not a genius scientist. He is simply a disturbed fan trying to copy what he saw on screen. That idea transforms the film from grotesque fantasy into something far darker. The horror comes from watching imagination turn into action and realizing how fragile the boundary between the two can be. Number 12. Martyrs 2008. French horror cinema shocked the world in the late 2000s with a movement critics later called the New French Extremity. Among those films, Martyrs stands as perhaps the most disturbing. Directed by Pascal Laugier, the film arrived in 2008 with a reputation that spread through whispered warnings rather than marketing campaigns. The story begins with a young woman named Lucy, who escapes from a mysterious facility where she was held captive as a child. Yet years later, she returns with her friend Anna, seeking revenge against the family she believes responsible. At first, the film appears to be a brutal revenge story, but the narrative soon transforms into something much darker. Lucy's search for justice leads them to a hidden organization conducting horrific experiments on human suffering. What follows is a relentless descent into pain and psychological terror. Laugier refused to soften the violence because the film was meant to explore the idea of transcendence through suffering. Many critics admired the ambition, but others believed the brutality crossed a moral line. Several countries banned or restricted the film, while others allowed it only in limited festival screenings. Despite the controversy, Martyrs has gained a powerful reputation among horror fans. The film asks an unsettling question. How far would people go to discover what lies beyond death? That philosophical terror lingers long after the final scene. It is not simply the violence that shocks audiences, but the idea that someone somewhere might believe such experiments are worth the cost. Number 11. Faces of Death, 1978. In the late 1970s, a film appeared that many people believed was too real to exist. Faces of Death arrived in 1978, disguised as a documentary exploring the subject of mortality. But what audiences saw on screen sparked panic and outrage across the world. The film claimed to present real footage of death captured from around the globe. Scenes showed accidents, executions, and bizarre rituals involving human remains. The narrator spoke calmly as if guiding viewers through a scientific examination of death itself. For many audiences, this presentation made the film feel disturbingly authentic. Authorities in several countries reacted quickly. The movie was banned in dozens of regions and became a central target during the famous Video Nasties panic in the United Kingdom. Critics argued that showing such imagery encouraged morbid curiosity rather than thoughtful reflection. The controversy only made the film more famous. Underground copies circulated on VHS tapes, which gave the movie a reputation as forbidden viewing. Years later, it was revealed that many of the most shocking scenes were staged using special effects. Yet the film's impact had already been sealed. Faces of Death tapped into a deep fear about the human fascination with mortality. Even after its secrets were exposed, the film remained a symbol of how easily cinema can blur the line between reality and illusion. Number 10. The Burning, 1981. When The Burning was released in 1981, it quickly became one of the most controversial slasher films of its era. While the early 1980s were already crowded with violent horror movies, this film crossed a line that alarmed censors around the world. Several countries banned it entirely, while others demanded heavy cuts before it could be shown in theaters. The story begins with a cruel prank played on a campground caretaker named Cropsy. A group of teenagers accidentally sets him on fire, leaving his body horribly disfigured. Years later, Cropsy returns seeking revenge on a new generation of campers. What follows is a tense battle for survival as the teenagers slowly realize they are being hunted in the isolated wilderness. Director Tony Maylam filmed the story with a gritty atmosphere that made the violence feel unusually realistic. One particular scene aboard a small boat shocked censors across Europe because of its sudden brutality. The moment became infamous during the Video Nasties panic in the United Kingdom, where authorities argued that such graphic scenes could encourage dangerous behavior among viewers. Despite the censorship, The Burning eventually developed a loyal following among horror fans. Many viewers now see it as an important early example of the slasher genre that helped shape the wave of horror films throughout the 1980s. Yet the film's dark reputation still lingers. The idea that a simple prank could unleash such devastating consequences gives the story a chilling sense of inevitability that continues to disturb audiences decades later. Number 9. Salo, or the 120 Days of Sodom, 1975. Few films have been surrounded by as much controversy as Salo, or the 120 Days of Sodom. Directed by Italian filmmaker Pier Paolo Pasolini, the film was released in 1975 and immediately became one of the most debated works in cinematic history. Pasolini adapted the story from a novel written by the Marquis de Sade, but he set the film during the final days of fascist Italy. The story follows four powerful men who abduct a group of young prisoners and imprison them inside a remote mansion. Over the course of several weeks, the captives are subjected to humiliating rituals and cruel psychological games designed to demonstrate absolute control over human life. The film's disturbing imagery shocked audiences and governments alike. Several countries banned it completely, while others allowed only heavily censored versions. The controversy intensified after Pasolini himself was murdered shortly before the film's release, which added an eerie layer of mystery to its legacy. Today, many critics view Salo as a brutal political allegory about the abuse of power. Pasolini used shocking scenes to expose how authoritarian systems treat people as disposable objects. Yet the film remains extremely difficult to watch. Its relentless cruelty forces viewers to confront the darkest possibilities of human authority. That confrontation is precisely why the film still sparks debate decades after its creation. Number 8. The Last House on the Left, 1972. Before Wes Craven became famous for Nightmare on Elm Street, he shocked the world with a low-budget horror film that felt disturbingly real. The Last House on the Left was released in 1972 and quickly became one of the most controversial movies of its era. The story begins with two teenage girls traveling to a concert in the city. Instead, they encounter a group of violent criminals who kidnap them and subject them to a terrifying ordeal. The brutality of the film shocked audiences because Craven refused to stylize the violence. The camera often lingers on the fear of the victims, which makes the experience deeply uncomfortable. Many countries banned the film or demanded heavy censorship. In the United Kingdom, the movie became one of the most infamous titles on the video nasties list during the 1980s. Yet despite the backlash, the film gained a devoted following among horror fans. What makes The Last House on the Left so disturbing is the emotional shift that occurs during the story. The parents of one victim discover the truth and decide to take revenge themselves. The film then forces viewers to confront a troubling question. When justice fails, how far would ordinary people go to punish those responsible? That moral ambiguity is what continues to give the film its lasting power. Number 7. I Spit on Your Grave, 1978. Few horror films have ignited as much debate as I Spit on Your Grave. Released in 1978, the movie quickly became one of the most controversial exploitation films ever produced. Some viewers saw it as an unforgivable shock film, while others believed it carried a message about revenge and survival. The story follows Jennifer Hills, a writer who travels to a quiet countryside cabin to work on her novel. What begins as a peaceful retreat soon becomes a nightmare when a group of local men begin harassing her. The situation escalates into a brutal assault that leaves Jennifer fighting for her life. But the story does not end there. Jennifer survives and begins planning a calculated revenge against those responsible. Director Mir Zarchi shot the film with raw realism, which intensified the controversy surrounding it. Several countries banned the film outright, while others refused to release it for decades. Critics argued that the violence was excessive and exploitative. Supporters claimed the story exposed the cruelty faced by victims and turned the narrative into one of empowerment. Regardless of interpretation, the film left a powerful mark on horror history. Its reputation as a banned film turned it into a forbidden curiosity for many viewers. And the unsettling question at its core continues to divide audiences. When justice is denied, does revenge become inevitable? Number 6. The Evil Dead, 1981. When Sam Raimi created The Evil Dead, he never expected the film to become a symbol of censorship battles around the world. Shot on a tiny budget in the woods of Tennessee, the movie was intended as a simple supernatural shocker. Instead, it became one of the most famous horror films of the 1980s. The story follows a group of friends who travel to a remote cabin for a weekend getaway. Inside the cabin, they discover an ancient book and a recording that accidentally awakens demonic forces in the surrounding forest. One by one, the friends become possessed by evil spirits, turning the isolated cabin into a battleground between survival and madness. Raimi filled the film with inventive special effects and relentless energy. Limbs twist in unnatural ways. Objects move with supernatural force. The camera races through the forest as if the evil itself is chasing the characters. This wild style thrilled audiences, but it also alarmed censors. During the Video Nasties crackdown in the United Kingdom, the film was placed on the banned list. Prosecutors argued that its graphic imagery was harmful to viewers. Today, The Evil Dead is widely celebrated as a groundbreaking cult classic. Its creative spirit helped shape the future of independent horror cinema. What was once considered dangerous entertainment is now recognized as one of the most influential horror films ever made. Number 5. Ichi the Killer, 2001. When Takashi Miike released Ichi the Killer in 2001, it instantly gained a reputation as one of the most disturbing films ever shown at international festivals. Audiences at early screenings reportedly fainted or walked out while critics debated whether the film was bold art or pure provocation. What nobody argued about was its intensity. The movie pushed violence to such extremes that many countries refused to show it without severe cuts. The story follows a sadistic crime boss named Kakihara who begins searching for his missing employer. His investigation leads him into a brutal underworld, where he encounters a mysterious young man named Ichi. At first, Ichi appears weak and emotionally fragile, but beneath that fragile exterior hides a terrifying capacity for violence. Manipulated by powerful criminals, he becomes an unstoppable weapon driven by trauma and confusion. Miike's direction combines shocking brutality with dark psychological themes. The violence is exaggerated, almost surreal, yet it exposes the emotional emptiness of the characters who live in this criminal world. Many governments reacted by banning or heavily censoring the film, including several European countries and parts of Asia. Even festival screenings sometimes required warnings for viewers. Despite the controversy, Ichi the Killer developed a strong cult following. Horror fans recognized it as a daring exploration of trauma, power, and identity, hidden beneath layers of grotesque imagery. Today, the film remains infamous for testing the limits of what audiences can endure while watching a story unfold. Number 4. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. In 1974, a small independent horror film appeared that looked almost like a documentary. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre did not rely on elaborate special effects or supernatural creatures. Instead, it presented something far more terrifying. A group of ordinary young travelers encountering unimaginable violence in the middle of nowhere. Directed by Tobe Hooper, the film follows 5 friends driving through rural Texas who stumble upon an abandoned farmhouse. Inside, they discover a family of cannibalistic killers, including the now infamous Leatherface. The story unfolds with relentless tension as the group realizes they have wandered into a nightmare from which escape may be impossible. What shocked authorities around the world was the film's gritty realism. The camera work feels chaotic and immediate, which makes the violence seem disturbingly authentic. While several countries, including the United Kingdom, Germany, and Brazil, banned the film completely when it first appeared. Censors argued that its brutality crossed the line of acceptable entertainment. Over the decades, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre has become one of the most influential horror films ever made. Leatherface remains an icon of terror, and the film's documentary style inspired countless future filmmakers. Yet the story still feels unsettlingly real. It reminds viewers that sometimes the most frightening monsters are the ones that could exist in the real world. Number 3. A Serbian Film, 2010. When A Serbian Film premiered in 2010, it quickly earned a reputation as one of the most controversial movies ever made. Even seasoned horror fans were shocked by what they saw. Governments across the world reacted swiftly, banning the film in several countries, including Spain, Brazil, Norway, and Australia. The story follows a retired adult film actor named Milos who is struggling financially. Desperate to support his family, he accepts an offer to appear in what he believes will be an experimental art film. As the production begins, Milos realizes he has entered something far darker. The The mysterious director behind the project forces him into increasingly disturbing situations designed to push every moral boundary imaginable. Regardless of interpretation, the film quickly became infamous. Screenings were canceled in several countries, and distributors refused to handle it. For many people, the reputation of a Serbian film became larger than the movie itself. It turned into a symbol of the moment when horror cinema reached a level of controversy that even hardened audiences struggled to confront. Number 2. Cannibal Holocaust, 1980. Few horror films have caused real-world panic quite like Cannibal Holocaust. Released in 1980, the movie blurred the line between fiction and reality so convincingly that authorities believed they were witnessing actual crimes. Director Ruggero Deodato was even arrested and charged with a murder until he proved that the actors in the film were still alive. The story follows a group of documentary filmmakers who travel deep into the Amazon rainforest to study remote tribes. Months later, the crew disappears and a rescue team discovers the footage they left behind. As the recovered film is shown, the audience learns the shocking truth about what really happened in the jungle. Deodato filmed the movie in a raw documentary style using handheld cameras and natural locations. This technique made the events feel disturbingly authentic. Scenes of violence combined with real animal killings created outrage across the world. More than 50 countries banned the film after its release. Yet beneath the controversy, the movie carried a powerful message. Deodato intended the story as a critique of sensationalist media. The filmmakers in the movie manipulate and exploit the people they encounter in order to create shocking footage. The horror emerges from the realization that the so-called civilized observers may actually be the true villains. Number 1. A Clockwork Orange, 1971. When Stanley Kubrick released A Clockwork Orange in 1971, the film immediately sparked outrage across the United Kingdom and beyond. Though not a traditional horror film, its disturbing vision of violence and social control created an atmosphere that felt deeply unsettling. The public reaction was so intense that the film disappeared from British cinemas for nearly 30 years. The story follows a young criminal named Alex who spends his nights committing acts of chaos with his gang. Alex enjoys classical music, stylish clothing, and extreme violence with equal enthusiasm. After being arrested, he becomes the subject of a controversial government experiment designed to eliminate criminal behavior through psychological conditioning. Kubrick filmed the story with chilling precision. The bright, futuristic visuals contrast sharply with the cruelty of the events unfolding on screen. This contrast makes the violence feel even more disturbing because it exists inside a world that appears calm and orderly. After the film's release, several crimes in Britain were blamed on its influence. Public pressure mounted, and Kubrick himself requested that the film be withdrawn from distribution in the United Kingdom. For decades, it remained unavailable to British audiences, which only increased its mythic reputation. Today, A Clockwork Orange is widely recognized as a masterpiece of cinema. Yet the controversy surrounding it reveals how powerful storytelling can shape public fear. The film forces viewers to confront a terrifying question about human nature. Is violence something society creates or something that already lives within us, waiting for the right moment to emerge?